I just point to the logo on my chest and tell them, Slammy, ego, Slammy, ego, Slammy, ego, Slammy, hey. Hit it up hard, hit it with strike. From the national anthem to the bottom of the night. I'm in Slammy, ego, Slammy, ego, Slammy, ego, Slammy, hey. You already know what's up. What's that? Another home run. We should know the job ain't done till we hold that trophy up. Hey.
Oh, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Talking Friars here on this Monday evening. Wow, a bombshell today. Not expecting this news at all, but Mike Shildt retires from the game of baseball, as of now at least. Retires as Padres manager, and now the Padres have to go through another managerial search. They've got AJ Preller still running things, and he released a statement today. He's going to be talking to the media tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So to me, that tells me, and that's good news for me. I'm a big AJ fan, that AJ is going to be staying. Now, Mike Shildt going, there's obviously a lot of different roads we could go down with this. We could talk about what's actually being said publicly by Mike Shildt. We could go down the road of what actually may have happened. Obviously, there's the road, about the future, who could end up, being Mike Shildt's replacement and what's that going to look like. But let's react to, and actually, I should probably start by just giving you the quotes, the AJ Preller statement, the Mike Shildt statement, before getting into those couple of avenues there. But let's go with the statements first. Kevin Acey's piece was very interesting today. Kevin is, I believe, the one that broke the news. He's the one that got the text or the email from Mike Shildt. But where is this? Let me get this full letter for you. Here it is. It is with a heavy but full heart that I am announcing my retirement from managing the San Diego Padres. It is a decision that I thought about during the season and became at peace with over the last 10 days. I gave every fiber of my being to help achieve Peter Seidler's vision of bringing a World Series championship to San Diego. We fell short of the ultimate goal, but I am proud of what the players, staff, and organization were able to accomplish the last 2 seasons. The grind of the baseball season has taken a severe toll on me mentally, physically, and emotionally. While it has always been about serving others, it's time I take care of myself and exit on my terms. I am extremely appreciative to the Padres, Peter Seidler, the Seidler family, Eric Grubner, AJ Preller, and staff for the trust and confidence to lead this team. I'm confident I left things in a better place. However, I am most grateful for our players. San Diego is rightfully proud of the Padres players. It is a group that conducts themselves with class, is dedicated to each other, and the common goal of winning a World Series. I love our players and will miss them dearly. After 34 years of dedicating myself to the rigors of coaching and managing, I can with great enjoyment look back on achieving my 2 primary goals: to help players get the most out of their God-given ability and become better men, also to win games. I move forward with a smile on my face, contentment in my soul, and genuine excitement for what God has next. To the Friar faithful, thanks for all the support and keep rocking Petco Park. It's the best home field advantage in Major League Baseball. The team is on its way to that World Series championship you so deserve. Respectfully, Shilty. I love the way that he ends that, because that's who Shilty is. Like, he has nicknames for everyone, and whether it's Tyler Wade, Wadey, it seemed like every nickname was part of their name, and then you attach a Y to it. It wasn't really calling players by their actual name, and that's such a baseball thing. But yeah, my reaction to this when I saw this morning was, what the F? I was not expecting this. No one was expecting this. For Mike Shildt to retire, I mean, Kevin Acey had just put in the UT 5 days ago that it was assured, essentially, that Mike Shildt was going to come back. He had 2 years left on his contract. There was talk from Kevin there in that article that an extension could be worked out for AJ Preller this month. And that very well may be the case, and probably will be the case, because AJ's still running things, and I'm all for that. But yeah, Shildt retiring. I was listening to Section 1904 on my drive home, and Darren was talking about how Shildt has been dealing. He deals with stuff in his personal life, so maybe that's something that is going on. Obviously, I'm not going to speculate at all about what he could be going through, but it seems like Shildt is immediately leaving San Diego and going back home to North Carolina. So there really could be something there. And if that's the case, obviously you hope that everything is going to be fine there with Shildt and his family or whatever is going on there. To me, I do have questions, but I don't look at Mike Shildt as someone that is just going to lie to, the fan base and paint this picture of, he's not, he's retiring, not because he couldn't mentally handle it, but like being a manager is what I'm talking about. But he didn't want to manage the Padres anymore because of his relationship with AJ Preller. Because publicly, what gets painted is that they were getting along great, and it totally was not Bob Melvin and AJ Preller, that relationship there, especially in 2023. It was more of Shildt, Preller, like, no, they're in line together. They're connected. I think Bob Nightingale put something out today about maybe the Shildt-Preller relationship being a little bit strained. And that's where we can go to the issue of, is AJ Preller the issue, right? Because how many managers has he gone through? And not just gone through, but when the Padres are trying to contend for a World Series, what has ended up happening? You have Bob Melvin willingly go to the Giants, and AJ Preller willingly allowing that, and not asking for anything back in return. He was like, Bob Melvin, yeah, go ahead. I don't want you here anymore. See ya. And then Mike Shildt retires from managing a team that has World Series aspirations. He wasn't managing the Colorado Rockies, wasn't managing the Pittsburgh Pirates, wasn't managing the Miami Marlins, was managing the GM of the team. All he knows is trying to win every year. And you have some ridiculously talented players, these players that he talks about on a daily basis, by the way, and speaks like nothing but positive words about these players, and future Hall of Famer and Manny Machado and the stars that you have on this team. It's not the worst situation. You have to live in San Diego, Coronado Island. So for him to walk away from it, again, it totally could be what he's saying. And I do think that it is what he's saying, that mentally and for himself, like he just couldn't, he knew that he couldn't go through this with another season. But still, like 2 years left on the contract. He just had signed the extension, I think, less than a year ago. Wasn't it last November? Something like that, where he signed that extension. So it's just obviously something that caught us all Padres fans off guard, this news. And it's one of those things where I was thinking about this today. Some people, like, you don't know how good you have it until it's gone. And that's obviously something that you could talk about in life. But like with Shildt, because what I saw was a lot of fans complaining about Mike Shildt in the postseason or end of the regular season, and the whole bunt, what was it, Buck Funting thing, right? Woodsy did on Ben and Woods, and obviously people they weren't the biggest fans of the small ball, and they weren't the biggest fans of Mike Shildt. You know how he treated some members of the media sometimes, and how he went back at them and made some things a bigger deal than he needed it to. And I've talked about that on this show. But today, what I saw was a lot of Padres fans like, man, I'm going to miss Mike Shildt. Man, this stinks. So it's interesting how some things change there when it's like, oh, he's actually not going to be managing the team anymore. It was actually pretty good having Mike Shildt. I wonder where this is going to go. I wonder who they're going to bring in, obviously. But I think it's natural, and I will talk about that today. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm going to talk about potential people, but I feel like people really love to, when something like this happens, immediately, who are they going to go hire? I want to appreciate Mike Shildt here for a little bit and what he brought to this team and who he is. I hope that he comes back as an advisor, because if he is voluntarily leaving, then he should be on good terms with the Padres. So they should easily, they would love to have Mike Shildt back as an advisor, right? But also something that's interesting is that he's not going to be doing that, at least as of now. Maybe that could happen during the season after this 2026 season, and he's like, man, I really miss it. I'm going to get back. But because he was previously an advisor or special assistant, whatever the title was, it was something like that before he became the manager. And if he's saying he can't mentally handle things, the toll that it takes and all that as being the manager, he doesn't strike me as someone that can live his life without baseball and without Major League Baseball. He told Dennis Lin today in a quote, looking forward to what's next and just want to teach the game. He can do that in the minor leagues for the Padres. And like he was doing before he got the manager job, go around to the different minor league systems and teach the game, teach how it should be played without the stress of being the manager, without having to talk to the media every day and get in those fights. So I want Shildt to remain in this organization in some capacity. And again, I just don't see how this, maybe he goes and voluntarily coaches a high school in North Carolina or contributes to a college there, and if he's going to be happy there, great. Like, I would look, Shildt, you go be my North Carolina area scout for the Padres, like, if you need to be home, great, but I want you to be a part of this organization. That's how I would approach it. But yeah, like, I just don't see how he's going to live his life without the game of baseball. He's just not one of those guys. I just don't see that. For me personally, like, if I was involved in the game for 30 plus years, like he was, and, I'm one of 30, I'm managing a Major League Baseball team. For me, it would be different because it would be the hometown team, but I'm managing the team, and then I'm just going to cold turkey, just not going to be involved anymore. I wouldn't know what to do with myself. I'd go golfing a bunch, but what about the other however many hours in the day? So obviously, like, family situation, whatever's happening there, that obviously is what's most important. But eventually, I'd love to have Shildt back in this organization. But what is that relationship like with AJ Preller? That is something that needs to be brought up here. Because, again, like, for him to just retire, does AJ have anything to do with that? Like, AJ has nothing to do with that. The toll, the mental toll, the strain that this, took on Mike Shildt and how he has to take care of himself, AJ wasn't a part of that. The grind, severe toll on me mentally, physically, emotionally, is what Shildt said in this letter. AJ wasn't a part of that. He didn't contribute to that. Of course he contributed to that. And I love AJ. I don't want, like, I want my GM to want to win as much as AJ does. I want my GM to think about the game and the team, 24/7 essentially. When he's playing basketball, like, that's the only time he's not thinking about the Padres. Other than that, like, that's all he does. So I love AJ, but there are other people that don't operate that way. Bob Melvin did not want to hear from AJ Preller at all hours of the night. And Mike Shildt, at the beginning, it seemed like he was open to that. And he was like, I'm a baseball nut. I'm a baseball rat. Like, yeah, we're going to fit great. And I thought that too. And maybe they did fit great. And, it really was something else with Shildt. But when you've got reporters, getting on you every day or asking you questions, and you have all the information managing these games, and then you have reporters come in after the game and ask you questions, and if you're in Mike Shildt's position, you're like, what do you want me to say? I made the decision with all the information I have. Do you have all the information laid out for you? Are you in these meetings before the game where we talk about all of these scenarios? And now you're going to go ask me questions thinking that I don't know what I'm doing, trying to question me. I understand where Mike is probably coming from in some of that. But getting back to the Preller stuff, that can be draining. Like, as much as you love the game of baseball, to the level, to the length that AJ goes is what it seems like, it can become too much for people. But Mike Shildt, I can't even use that excuse. Like, Bob Melvin wasn't in the Padres organization. Mike Shildt was in the organization for, I think, multiple years before getting this manager job. So, granted, he wasn't in the manager seat, but you had a relationship with AJ Preller before getting this job. So I would think that you knew a little bit about what you were getting yourself into, and you probably talked to people in the organization to know what AJ Preller's about and his communication style and what's going to be happening there. So I would think that he had a pretty good idea of what he was going to be signing up for when he took the job. Again, personally, we don't know what he was dealing with, so I don't even want to speculate there. I do hope that this was all Mike Shildt. And that's what Kevin Acey's sources are saying, that this was all Mike Shildt. But credit to him, I will say that if it was all Mike Shildt, credit to him for being aware of what he needs for himself mentally and his mental health. Because I'll tell you this, if I was in that position to be managing the Padres and I have 2 more years left on my contract, just made the playoffs back-to-back years, 90-plus win seasons in back-to-back years for the first time in franchise history. I'm coming back. They weren't going to fire me. I'd have a really hard time, even if I knew mentally I just wasn't doing great, I'd have a really hard time of stepping away from it. Because that's just a job you're not going to get back. That happens once in your life. I know you can get another manager job, but this situation, it happens once. And if you leave, you're not coming back in that role. So you really have to think long and hard about that. So that's just something, I don't know if I would have been able to do that if I was in that situation. So credit to him for knowing himself, if that's in fact what actually happened. But obviously there are going to be questions about, did this really happen this way? Because AJ, 1 year left on his contract. But who's more important to the Padres winning, Mike Shildt or AJ Preller? Who does the roster construction? It's AJ. So is it possible AJ could have went to the Padres and been like, I have 1 year left on my contract. I want to be here. Are you guys willing to have me? But this isn't working out as well as I thought it was with Mike Shildt. So let's pick one or the other. Either way, but pick one or the other. And I heard Darren Smith on his podcast mentioning the Colorado Rockies were interested in AJ Preller. And maybe there's going to be some other teams that get floated out there in rumors when this season's done that we'll hear about that wanted AJ Preller, interest in AJ. But AJ maybe had some leverage and was like, if you're going to keep me, because this extension that I would think would be announced at some point later this month, maybe in early November, this extension, all right, you want me, then let me do it my way. And I thought Mike Shildt was the guy, but I feel like I need to go the AJ Ellis route, or whoever gets brought in here, or not even just brought in, but elevated. So I'm just throwing some things out there that are interesting to think about. I don't think that Mike Shildt's lying here, but there's obviously going to be some speculation. There's obviously going to be some questions when publicly it seems like the Preller-Shildt relationship, it's way better than low bar, but way better than the Melvin Preller relationship. So what happened? I mean, what's really fascinating was, and I'll get to the chat, obviously, the super chats. Thank you very much. I will get to you guys first supporting the channel. The Kevin Acee article, this is how this starts. And before I read this, I want to make sure that my Wi-Fi is good here. Because it says I'm at 1 bar, but no one in the chat saying anything about the Wi-Fi, so I'm going to keep going. Okay, so Acee in the UT, this is how he starts the article about Mike Shildt retiring as the manager. Mike Shildt stood in a corner of the visiting clubhouse at Wrigley Field after the Padres' final game of 2025. He spoke in a soft voice about the love he had for his players and the culture that had been built in his 2 seasons as manager. He was devastated and proud and tired, and he was done. He was fairly certain of that as he looked around the room that night after a 3-1 loss to the Cubs in Game 3 of the NL Wildcard Series. 9 days later, Shildt made his retirement official. After 2 seasons as Padres manager, he's walking away from a contract that has 2 years remaining, citing a severe toll the job has taken on him mentally and physically. Shildt informed the Padres of his decision on Saturday. So this was AJ. What we know now is like AJ's working. He's already been working on manager candidates because he's known about this since Saturday. So he probably had some long nights there over the weekend. Shildt and 2 Padres sources said the decision to retire was Shilt's alone. But just the way that this started about Shildt, he was tired. He was being fairly certain that he was done after that game. I had no idea. I don't think we had any idea of that. And to be fairly certain that you were done, was this because of a certain move that was made in the wildcard series? Was this because you knew that the organization was going to go with Preller over you if they had to pick one? So you're like, yeah, I'm probably done. I'm probably out of here. Or really, was it just straight up mentally? Yep, just couldn't do it. Couldn't go through it. Whatever situation he's got going on, that and the toll that this takes, yeah, I couldn't do it again. And again, like, respect, because I obviously would rather have someone that mentally is all in and has the confidence to do it, and they're in a good spot physically, health-wise of their family, all that. I'd rather have that than Mike Shildt. As much as I was good with Mike Shildt staying as the Padres skipper, I want someone that knows that they're going to be good to do this. So I do respect Mike Shildt for doing that. But it was sad today. I wasn't expecting this. And Shildt was someone, and I don't know if we're going to get this in this next person. Depends on who it is. Shildt was someone that seemed like he really did care about the city of San Diego. Really cared about winning for Peter Seidler, who has passed away, obviously. But, for the fans, winning for the city. And I'll tell you this quick little thing here. This was before Shildt was hired as Padres manager. This was when the winter meetings were here in San Diego. And he was the special assistant or advisor, whatever the role was, to, I think it was to AJ in the Padres front office. And I saw him in the lobby at the winter meetings. And I wanted to actually try to get him on my show. The Padres, they don't allow that because I'm not a major, I'm not a major credentialed media member or anything like that. So they don't allow it. Even though, broadcasters have said yes to me that they want to come on. It just can't happen. But Shildt, he gave me his phone number. And we talked for a few minutes there. And he treated me as if he knew who I was. He treated me just like another normal human being. And those managers, those former managers, like sometimes they've got better stuff to do, obviously, and I totally understand that. Shildt was not that. He was not that. he was a really nice human being. And I came away from that like, wow, that was awesome. And I don't know who we're gonna get for this next guy. And so, did Shildt have some flaws? Like, yeah, you can argue that. But I was proud that he was our manager. Those ejections, I posted that video on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram today of some of the funny ejections from Mike Shildt and how he would stand up for his players and some of the comments he made in post-game press conferences. I put in there as well. Some funny moments, his laugh. Definitely, you know that laugh when you hear it. But yeah, like I referenced it earlier about you just don't know, like how do I put it? Just like I said earlier about sometimes you don't know how good it is until it's gone. I hope that the fans that are, they wanted Mike Shildt out. Hopefully, if you're still feeling that way, okay. But I saw a lot of people not feeling that way today and feeling like, dang, I'm bummed by this news. And that actually makes me happy because I think you should probably be bummed about this. Like this guy, I know people are mad about the postseason, but let's remember, was last year Mike Shildt's fault in the postseason? He's the guy that managed the Padres to a series lead against the eventual World Series champions and got him to 93 wins in the regular season. He's the one, they were so close to taking down the Dodgers. They had the series lead. And then the offense obviously does nothing. The 24 scoreless innings, all that. He can't go out there and hit for them. So not only did he do that last year, then this year follows it up with 90 wins, with a good amount of injuries, by the way, with some key guys missing. And then in the postseason, you can disagree about lineups and him not changing anything. But at the end of the day, like, even if he were to change things, it probably would have been the order of guys. And at the end of the day, like, your big guys needed to be better. Fernando needed to be better. Manny needed to be better. You're not benching those guys. And you're not going to be moving those guys in the lineup. Like, he had what he had. So I think he has, like, the best winning percentage in Padres history for managers. I know it was only 2 years. So I get it. But from what we have to judge, 2 90-plus win seasons, not bad. Not bad. I know that a lot of other Padres teams, that was impossible for any manager. Best manager of all time couldn't do that with the teams that they were managing. But still, like, this is what happened. And Shildt, the fundamentals are another thing too. Like, are the Padres going to play fundamentally sound baseball as well as they did under Mike Shildt? Is that next manager? Because Shildt was old school in that way, where he really preached that, and it was caring about the little things and being purposeful with the pregame work and the notepad or the yellow pad, whatever he called that, before games, where they would go over what happened in the previous night. How can you learn from that? They were always talking baseball, and it seemed like to me that, like, guys like Manny were more engaged going out there pregame because it wasn't eyewash work. It was purposeful work. You guys know what you need to do. We're going to work on something for this amount of time. It's not going to be a long time, but it's going to be purposeful. It's going to be meaningful. You're going to get something from it. It's going to be important, and it's going to be used at some point during the season. And so whether the spring training backfield stuff, like, it all was going to be used, and there was a purpose there. It wasn't just, oh, we have to go out there for pregame today, so let's just take, normal BP. Let's just take some grounders, and that's that. No, there was more engagement from players going out there pregame and doing stuff. That's what I read. So I just don't know what they're going to get in that next manager. So we'll see. Did I read the Preller statement? I don't think I did. We would like to congratulate Mike on a successful career and thank him for his significant contributions to the Padres and the San Diego community over the last 4 years, including consecutive 90-win seasons and 2 postseason appearances as manager. His dedication and passion for the game of baseball will leave an impact on our organization, and we wish him the best in his next chapter. The search for a new manager of the Padres will begin immediately with the goal of winning a World Series championship in 2026. And that's where we go to now, is the goal of winning a World Series championship in 2026. The search beginning immediately. It began before we even knew about this news because it was told to the Padres on Saturday. And AJ Preller isn't going to waste any hours. He's not going to waste a day. He's not going to waste a weekend trying to go, talk to and find out, make this list of who he wants to talk to, who are his targets, because he's running the show. It's him. And I like it. But yeah, after I shout out some of the great partners of this show, I'm going to get into some of the possible names. Some guys I feel like it's like, yeah, you got to talk to that person. At least. You at least got to talk to them. And then some internal names that have been thrown out there. And then maybe some other names that could pop in there that maybe some others aren't bringing up. But yeah, shout out to Gaglione Bros, famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries. Their main location is on Friars Road. Obviously, Petco Park closed, unfortunately, for this month because the Padres aren't playing, as Dodger fans love to let me know on social medias if I'm not aware. And yes, I am aware that they have a postseason game going on right now. I don't give a bleep about that. I'll see what the score is, and hopefully they lose. But Gaglione Bros, their main location, Friars Road, full menu, address, phone number, all that stuff is on their website. Great cheesesteaks, garlic fries, cheesesteak fries, and at a reasonable price as well. So check them out. Breaking Tea, they've got Padres and Aztec shirts and sweatshirts. Click the link in the description for that. That'll take you to the San Diego Sports page. Hopefully they don't have the LA team still listed on there. SeatGeek code Talking Friars, $20 off your first order when you sign up with your email address. It's not just Padres tickets, concerts, other events. It will work if you use that code. So I definitely recommend that you do that. Just trying to help you out there. All right. Without further ado, let's go into who could take over for the Padres to be the next manager. AJ Preller, how many managers has he hired? Well, if you want to go through the list, the first manager he hired was Andy Green. I know when Bud Black was fired, it was Dave Roberts, it was Pat Murphy, there was Rod Barajas after Andy Green, and then after that, there was Jace Tingler, there was Bob Melvin, and there was Mike Shildt. So I believe, if I'm doing this correctly, this is just off the top of my head, eighth manager, ninth if you count Bud Black, but eighth manager he would be selecting. And there's a lot of GMs that would not get to 8 managers. There's a lot of GMs that don't get to 3 managers. So there are some fans where I understand why you'd be like, why is he continuing to get these shots? This is another manager that is now, opting to not stick with the Padres, even though the Padres are a contending team and have a lot of talent on this team. I still value the roster construction for AJ Preller, and not everyone is going to fit AJ Preller. The way that this guy operates, the hours, the communication, it's just not a fit for everyone. And it may be a fit for a lot of people at the start. And all these managers are just going to be shorter relationships. And hopefully one day they're going to win a World Series with a manager. And that's just how it's going to be. Like, maybe he's never going to have a long-term manager because you just can't last with AJ Preller doing it that way. Because Mike Shildt, Bob Melvin, like whoever, they just don't have that endless. I thought Mike Shildt did. And maybe he did if there wasn't other stuff going on in his life, right? Like, these guys aren't robots. But like AJ Preller doesn't stop. All he knows is forward. And for some people, they need to stop for a little bit. I'm more wired that way, like AJ. Like I just keep going, and for some people, that's just not how it is. They need that time off. They need to not be thinking about it, and that's just how it is. But the San Diego Union Tribune, Jeff Sanders put out a list of internal and external options for the next manager of the Padres. Before I get to this list, I just want to give my names right off the bat, and then I'll react to some of this because I haven't seen this article yet. But for me, the internal candidates that the Padres are going to talk to, Ruben Niebla, pitching coach, they've got to talk to him. He wants to manage in the future. I think he will manage in the future. When we're talking about like someone who knows what the clubhouse is, he's in there every day. And if you think that he didn't help Mike Shildt make decisions, then I don't know what you're talking about. Like the guy was right there. Every game, he's right there. So maybe this is a way to, it definitely would be a way. Because if Ruben wants to manage in the future, what if the Rockies come calling? What if another team comes calling and says, yeah, we're going to make you the manager. We'll make you our skipper. If the Padres do that, then you get to keep Ruben Niebla. If you love Ruben Niebla and what he does for the pitching staff, and you bring in some other guys or the same guys that you really trust offensively and you let them run the offense, and what? Ruben knows nothing about offense? He doesn't know about game planning? Of course he does. I think he can make those decisions. So, yeah, you talk to Ruben Niebla. You talk to Brian Esposito. He is the bench coach essentially right now. And he took over whenever Shildt got ejected. I think you talk to him. I'm not going to act like I know a ton about Brian Esposito, but you talk to him because he's in the organization right now. He's on the coaching staff, and he was one of Mike Shildt's right-hand men, if that makes sense, in the dugout. And if you want someone internally that's been in there that can kind of just step in and he knows what the clubhouse was like, he knows what players like to do pregame and communication-wise and all that stuff, how spring trainings run, because the bench coach does a lot of that, usually, is what I've heard. Then Brian Esposito could be that option. That's the coaching staff. Then there's the people that are the special assistants to AJ Preller or Eric Greupner, which would be interesting. And one of those is Mark Loretta, who has wanted to manage before, and I don't think he got any managerial interview with the Padres in previous managerial cycles. Whether that was the Andy Green one, the Jace Tingler one, Bob Melvin and Mike Shildt felt like that was who AJ wanted. So it was just, that's just what was going to happen. Especially after Tingler, they were not going to bring in an inexperienced guy. Like Bob Melvin, at the time, that was a great hire. Took him to the NLCS. But Mark Loretta is someone that I think because he's there internally, you talk to, former big leaguer. He was a coach on the Chicago Cubs staff. Let's not forget that. Short, but he was. The only thing there is like, what is Greupner and Preller's relationship? I don't think it's that great, but that's total speculation. That's total guessing on my part. Would AJ be like, yeah, this guy reports to Eric Greupner. I don't think I want to make him the manager of the team. He wasn't one of my guys. He's one of Greupner's guys. Now, one of AJ's guys is AJ Ellis, who obviously is seen as a future manager. And this is a guy like Clayton Kershaw. That was his personal catcher. And Kershaw has thought the same thing, that AJ Ellis is going to be a manager in the future. And so, yeah, you talk to AJ Ellis. He's in your organization. And I would think that the Padres are kind of like they have him there to obviously help, but also while he's there, he can learn some things too about communication-wise with AJ. He's probably down on the field, a little bit. Probably in the clubhouse a little bit. Don't know, but I would think so. So you talk to him. And in terms of credibility in the clubhouse, you would get the credibility with AJ Ellis. Former big leaguer. Mike Shildt didn't even manage in the big leagues, and he got credibility with those players, and the players loved him. So Like AJ Ellis catching big playoff games, being on a contender, being in a market that there's pressure to win. He has that. Scott Service, who I know it may not be the best look because he leaves or he gets canned, whatever happened there at the Mariners. And look what the Mariners do. They're in the freaking ALCS and they're 2 wins away from the World Series. But maybe Scott Service learned some things there. And him being with the Padres here, could this be a Mike Shildt 2.0 situation where they brought in Scott Service because they were like, maybe he could be the next manager of the team. He could get to know the organization and have a head start there so it can be a better transition into being the manager than if we just hired this guy and he wasn't in the organization, didn't know about the communication with AJ Preller, didn't know about, some of the players, stuff that probably a lot of stuff that we don't even know about that goes on when they're one of these assistants. But yeah, Scott Service, former manager, like you should talk to him and they will talk to him. I'd be surprised if they would not. So what I got there, Niebla, Loretta, AJ Ellis, Scott Service, Brian Esposito. And then the two that I'm like, you have to give them a call. David Ross is one of them. Former Cubs manager. I think how that situation happened was pretty crappy, to be quite honest, where the Cubs bring Craig Counsell in from the Brewers, pay him a ton of money. And it was like, yeah, David Ross, all right, see ya, you're gone. And it wasn't necessarily because David Ross wasn't the guy. Like he was a terrible manager. Like, no, it was Craig Counsell was willing to come to the Cubs and the Cubs were willing to pay him a ton of money. And they were like, yeah, Craig Counsell's the better option. So screw you, David Ross. After the guy, what he did with the 2016 World Series and all, like he's loved in Chicago. So I would talk to David Ross. I think he wants to get back into it. Former catcher. I could totally see him working out a second time after learning some things with the Cubs. And again, it didn't seem like he was a terrible manager. It was Craig Counsell's available, and we can take him away from the Brewers. Let's do that. It's funny, though, that they get whooped by the Brewers in the NLDS this year. But anyway. So David Ross is one. The other is Boch. Bruce Bochy, you have to give him a call. I know he's up there in age, but this is a guy that obviously has managed the Padres before. He didn't win the World Series, but he got him there. He's 70 years old. So there's obviously going to be the questions about, can he do this health-wise, right? But as long as he can do it health-wise, I mean, you're trying to win right now. Why would you bring in someone that you don't know if it's going to work? Bruce Bochy would work. Like, you're not going to... Now, AJ would really have to let Boch manage. Like, you're not... Boch, you bring Boch in, Boch is managing the team. But it seems like that's what happened with Shildt, is that they let Shildt have definitely more of a say than previous managers on the lineup and not roster decisions, in-game decisions, stuff like that. Like, yeah, that was Shildt. I think we saw that starting Darvish in Game 3. Jake Peavy in the organization on MLB Network after was disagreeing with that decision. So, and he also had some interesting comments here today, which I will try to play here because that left me pretty confused. But I'll get to that here in a little bit. But Boch, like, the language, if I remember correctly, with the Texas Rangers was they mutually agreed to part ways. And then the Rangers hired Skip Schumacher. By the way, Skip would have gotten this job. Like, if Shildt knew, or if the Padres weren't in contention and Shildt, made this decision and had this news like right the day after the wild card. I forget the timing of the Rangers hiring Skip Schumacher, if it was during the wild card series or I could look that up. But like, if the timing lined up, Skip would have been the next manager of the Padres. Like, the dude loved the organization, lives in Orange County. Like, the guy would have. He was introduced 3 days ago as the manager. But when was this announced? I think Passan put it out, so I'll check him. October 3rd? Okay, so that was that during the wild card series? maybe like shortly after. Yeah, October 2nd, I think, was the last game. So it was right there. So, like, if Shildt knew right then and there, maybe they could have prevented this. But Skip was in the Rangers organization. Um, so the timing, yeah, not great there. But going back to Boch, like, mutually agreed to part ways. Rangers in a different spot than the Padres are in. They've already won a World Series as well. So I think they were more willing to be like, hey, we have Skip Schumacher here, someone that could do this for a decade, maybe. Like, let's maybe more. Let's mutually agree here to part ways, Boch. Thank you for what you did, but we're gonna go with Skip. And hopefully you understand. And Boch was like, yeah, fine. Because he probably looks at it as like, yeah, the Rangers, they're not a World Series contender right now. So yeah, that's fine. I won a World Series here. I'm a legend here forever. I'm a legend in San Francisco. The question I have with Boch is sure, like the mental stuff or the physical health, the mental health, like, is he able to do that? And it's not the Rockies, it's not the Marlins, it's not the Pirates, it's not another contending team. The Padres is different. He used to manage here. He still, I'm pretty sure, knows a lot of people in town and enjoys coming back to San Diego when he's been with San Francisco, when he was with Texas. So I think he would strongly consider it if AJ gave him the call. And I would think that AJ probably has already talked to Bochy about this. I'd be surprised if he hasn't. Like, that probably should have been his first phone call, was to Bochy to see what he thought about this. For Bochy coming in, yeah, I'd be super excited about that because I want to win right now. This Manny Bogarts window, like, I feel like 2024 was already their best shot to win it all, but I don't want to stop trying. So if Boch is going to manage for a couple seasons and that's it, like, I still want to take that shot than to go with someone that maybe hasn't managed. Or even if someone that has managed, but do you want to go with Boch or do you want to go with who's a Hall of Fame manager or do you want to go with someone that isn't? Right? And the City Connects hopefully will be some 98 type throwback sort of thing. So that would be great. But yeah, I mean, Boch is one of the best managers of all time. Like, it's obvious. Yes, you got to give him that call. The only thing I think about is, like, he is a legend in San Francisco, and Buster Posey is running things there. So does he want to go manage a team that is competing against Buster Posey? Like, it's one thing to manage the Rangers. It's another thing to manage inside the division and manage the Padres against someone that you love who is, running the show in San Francisco, a division rival. I think Giants fans, like, even if Boch would take the Padres job, you'd have to still love him if you're a Giants fan. Like, he gave you 3 World Series, right? He led the team to 3 World Series championships. But that would be a little bit weird. So we'll see. But yeah, possible internal candidates for me: Ruben, Mark Loretta, AJ Ellis, Scott Service, Brian Esposito. Got to give David Ross and Bruce Bochy a call. Ron Washington, that's a no for me. It was a yes. I wanted him. The whole Jace Tingler thing. I wanted Ron Washington, not Jace Tingler. I was pissed when Jace Tingler got the job, and we see how that played out. But now he stepped away due to some health issues during the season with the Angels. Like, yeah, I'm good. If you can talk to Yadier Molina, yeah, of course you talk to him. But would he? I feel like he would wait for the Cardinals job, not go to the Padres. Nick Hundley, I think he's with the Rangers in their organization. For me, though, I'm like, would you hire Nick Hundley or AJ Ellis? You'd probably just hire AJ Ellis because he's more familiar with your organization because he's been with you, But Nick Hundley, former catcher, like, maybe he would be a manager in the future. That's someone that comes to my head. Buck Showalter, like, I joked about this on social media. Buck Showalter, Fernando Tatis Sr. For anyone that thought I was serious, you just don't know me. I'm joking. I like to have fun. Not everything is super serious. Fernando Tatis Sr., I'm not really totally joking about him coaching because, like, Nando is a huge part of this team, and it seems like Nando clicks and turns things around whenever he talks to his dad. So if he was there all the time, and his dad could help other players as well, like he's helped Dirks and Profar in the past, like he can help other players. This isn't just a Nando thing. I know how that would look in the organization and all that. I get that. But I don't think that's a stupid thought to have. Manager, yes, no, that's not happening. Buck Showalter, obviously that's not going to be happening. I know he was a former manager for Manny, but the whole Mets thing that happened there in the wild card series, like there's still a lot of people in that clubhouse. You're not. Joe Musgrove's in the club. You're not hiring Buck Showalter. Joe Girardi, I think, is out there. I'm not super high on that. Who are some other guys? Brian Snitker, he stepped into an advisory role with the Braves. It's not like he was like fired, I don't think, from Atlanta. So I'm not even taking that in there as a possibility. And then other guys, Rocco Baldelli. Do you talk to Rocco Baldelli, who got fired from the Twins? I think he knows what he's talking about. That whole Twins situation wasn't the best, obviously, with them trading away as many guys as they did. So many injuries that Rocco had to deal with as the manager of the Twins. So I would like for the Padres to at least talk to Rocco. Wouldn't be the worst idea. There's nothing to lose to at least talk to these guys. Derek Shelton from the Pirates, I'm good. I'm just trying to think of some other name. Those are the names that stick out to me. Adrian Gonzalez, no. I saw that floated out there on social media today. I'm like, what are you talking about? No. Anyone else that comes to mind? Will Myers? Just kidding. Oz? Just kidding. But yeah, those are the candidates I'm thinking of. In the UT, let me go through these internal options. AJ Ellis, already talked about him. Brian Esposito, already talked about him. Mark Loretta, Ruben Niebla, Scott Service. External, Rocco Baldelli. Ryan Flaherty. No. If they hire Ryan Flaherty, I will be pissed off. No. I know that he was supposed to be like the next manager of the Padres, and then he went to the Cubs when I think they brought Shildt in. No. Please do not hire Ryan Flaherty. I know Manny loves him, and he would have some credibility there in the clubhouse, but I'd like someone who's done it before. Nick Hundley gets brought up in here. Brandon Hyde is another name. That's interesting, but I don't think so with that Orioles team, and it was underwhelming there. David Ross is brought up. Albert Pujols is brought up, but it seems like he's the top candidate with the Angels. Would he rather manage the Angels or the Padres? I think you'd rather manage the Padres, so maybe Preller can swoop in there, but that is a risk because Albert, I know he knows what he's talking about. Like, don't get me wrong, but he also hasn't managed in the big leagues before. If you can talk to Yachty, if you can talk to Albert, you do it. But I don't know. Maybe he proves it in Anaheim first. Although that's kind of hard to prove it in Anaheim based on what they have. Joe Madden is another name that might get brought up. I'm good. I think I'll pass on that. I'm sorry. I just don't see AJ Preller and Joe Madden getting along very well. Seems like both guys would be like, nah, I know what I'm talking about. No, I know what I'm talking about. No, I know what I'm talking about. I did, before getting to the chat, I did want to get to the, okay, Dodgers won game 1. Crap. I did want to get to the Jake Peavy sound from MLB Network because this was interesting. I'm trying to pull it up here. At the end of this clip, I'll play the full thing. At the end of this clip, he brought up, he like hinted like maybe Mike Shildt didn't get fired here. And this was, or excuse me, that Mike Shildt didn't retire, that Jake Peavy is saying that maybe the Padres actually moved on from Mike Shildt. But here's this sound.
Surprised by it because what I saw him do is take a team that felt like they were sort of afloat over the last 2 years and galvanize them and bring them together.
Absolutely.
They played some really good baseball. And look, they had some injuries down the stretch. Obviously, they lost Jason Adam and Laureano in the postseason, hurt them a little bit. But I thought he did a really nice job. A lot of big personalities there. They didn't hit a lot of home runs, yet they still won games. And so I thought he did an excellent job. Now, remember, he was in St. Louis previously. And one of the word on the street then was that there was a little bit of a clash with the analytics, with the front office and everything else. So my initial thought went to, I'm shocked by this, but I wonder, does this mean that there was something that wasn't working relationally in between the front office and himself?
Okay, and Jake, a former outstanding pitcher with the Padres. Now you're still with the Padres, but what can you tell us?
Well, I'll tell you, he did a fabulous job during his time there. He got really close with Peter Seidler as a special assistant and really understood the Padres of who they were and what they were about, what they needed. He brought that to San Diego and again, delivered winning as he did in St. Louis. I do think Joe Madden is on to something when he talks about how R&D and new school analytics match up with such an old school, fundamentally based guy. It makes for tough conversations at times for you to jive. And I know there was probably some of that going on.
He didn't seem to be like in his actual managing. He didn't seem like
he's an incredible. He's an incredible manager, and for that baseball ops staff, they give the manager free reign. And Shildt, making the lineup and making the moves. And you just heard Joe Madden; he makes incredible game management moves in that. And from what I know and what I did see, I thought he did a fabulous job and had this team poised and ready to win. He will find himself on his feet and get even another opportunity.
Like what, Jake? Jake. He'll land on his feet and maybe he will find himself another opportunity. You're hinting that he got fired, that he's not retiring. He got pushed out when you say that. Just so you know, Jake. And if I was the Padres, I would not want Jake Peavy talking on MLB Network about this. I would have went to Jake and be like, hey, we want you in our organization, but we're going to need to talk to MLB Network people. You're not allowed to talk about anything Padres. You can talk about other teams, or you could talk about, like, regular stuff. You can react to games, but you can't talk about a manager getting fired. You can't talk about personnel decisions, someone getting fired. You can't talk about that because you're in the organization. He's a report. He reports to Eric Krupner. And so the comments about the decision to start Darvish and not Michael King, there was stuff there. And then here, he'll land on his feet. Like, the dude retired. Jake, the dude retired is what is being said. Unless you know something that we don't. And then, making the comments about, like baseball ops group, they give Mike Shildt free reign on the lineup and all that. So that was just weird to me. I was confused. I'm like, Jake, did you misspeak there? But I just don't know how you can misspeak in that situation when literally you see all over the screen and all that. Like, Mike Shildt retires. He didn't get fired. It's not Padres fire Mike Shildt. But he made the comment as if they did. So that was weird. That was interesting. Anything from this Kevin A? Before getting into the chat, anything from this Kevin AC article? He mentions about who Padres likely will interview some members of the organization: Ruben Niebla, AJ Ellis, Scott Service, Mark Loretta. They could Brian Esposito. Another thing about Shildt, he left this team in a better spot than where it was. I mean, where it was they missed the playoffs in 2023. The manager and GM had a terrible relationship, and you had the clubhouse probably not in the best spot. Shildt comes in, and you don't hear, well, it wasn't in the best spot, obviously. Like, there was the whole Kevin AC Manny Machado article that came out, remember? About the leadership style and all that stuff. Shildt comes in, you hear nothing. We haven't heard anything about the clubhouse and there being clubhouse issues. So he nipped that in the butt, and back-to-back 90-plus win seasons. And I know they didn't win a World Series. They didn't get to the NLCS like Bob Melvin did. They didn't reach the mountaintop. But you can't control everything when you're the manager. There are some things you can control, some things you can't. And he did a pretty darn good job of controlling the things that he, doing the right things in the things that he could control. And he brought that clubhouse together. The clubhouse was there. They were close. It was a special group. Seems like both years. And he really wanted to win for this city. And he did do a lot of winning in those regular seasons. So credit to him. I enjoyed him being the Padres manager. And you just don't know who's going to come next. Would they talk to Phil Nevin? That's a name that just popped in my head again. Benji Gill was part of it. Last managerial search. Carlos Mendoza was, and then he got hired by the Mets. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I like Shildt. I really like the pairing. One, because Shildt had that relationship with Peter Seidler, and it was like, yeah, this is the man. This is definitely the guy that should be the manager of this team. Perfect. And like baseball rat, AJ Preller, baseball rat. And it was like, oh, this is a match made in heaven. This is going to work. And to a degree, it worked. And obviously, they didn't reach the mountaintop, but it's hard. It's hard to do. All right, let's get to the super chats here. I've talked enough, over an hour of just me. Let's go to JD's third with the super chat. Thank you so much for the support. He says, Mr. Magoo is fired, Ben. Let's not get it twisted and be naive. AJ is hiring his 6th manager in 8 years. This is not normal. Let's stop pretending. I'm pretty sure it's more than 6. Is it 6? It would be this next one: Shildt, Melvin, Tingler, Andy Green, Rod Barajas, Dave Roberts, Pat Murphy. In terms of like full time, okay, that's a little bit different. So you're saying this is more AJ's fault? AJ definitely had to have contributed to this toll, this strain on Mike Shildt. JD's third, our Cy Young, 101 pitches, 0 runs, 10 strikeouts, 8 innings. Are you talking about Snell tonight? Great. I'm so surprised that happened. So surprised. That's what happens. You had Josh Naylor hitting a homer for the Mariners today in their postseason game. I mean, the Mariners are the team I'm rooting for, so I was happy about that. But yeah, that's just how it is. Former Padres. Brandon Lockridge probably going to hit a homer off the bench in this NLCS. That's just the way it's going to go. All right. Frieza says, fire the hitting coach. There might be a lot of people that get let go because the new manager, is AJ going to be like, yep, you have to keep these people? How appealing is that going to be to this manager? Do they want to come be the manager of the Padres if they have to keep people that they don't want on the staff, that they don't even know who that person is? You want the manager to trust these people, trust these coaches. Because it happens in other sports. They clean house, or 90% of it, when a new coach comes in. Because you want everyone to be aligned. Someone says here, I like the idea of Niebla as manager and Peavy as pitching coach. They'd probably elevate Ben Fritz to pitching coach instead of bringing in Peavy as the pitching coach. And I don't know, like Peavy lives in Alabama, I think, still. And he does MLB Network stuff, and there's some stuff he does with the Padres. If he was offered a spot on the Padres coaching staff, I wonder what he would think about that. He also, though, I think we should note, he's not reporting to AJ Preller. He reports to Eric Grutner. Maybe Peavy and Preller get along great, but I do think we should note that. Dane says, I think they should get someone from the outside and keep Niebla as pitching coach. What you do, though, there is you run the risk of another team, a team that has nothing to lose, like the Rockies, to be like, Ruben, here you go. You're the next manager of our team. Because that team could be like, we believe in Ruben, or they could also say, we might believe in Ruben, but we really just want him to get away from the Padres. Johnny says next we'll say Victor Rodriguez retires from the Padres. I did see some stuff that made me laugh today about, dealing with Manny and Tatis, it'll take a toll on you. How true is that? Like, really, it's funny, but the real answer for me on that is like, yeah, man, that sucks. To have a future Hall of Famer who you can put in there every day because he posts every day. Oh man, that sucks to have Fernando on your team. How talented that guy is. Oh, that sucks. That's really straining. They got to be better in the postseason, but you're still going to want him on your team in the top of that lineup. Someone says, I wish Skip Schumacher was still available. I do too. That would be very interesting. For me, if Skip was available, it would be Boch and Skip. Those are your two. And one of them better be the manager of the Padres. You better get one of them. But Skip is with the Rangers. I mean, I don't know what is in his contract. Like, what if he left something open? Like, yep, I'm the manager of the Rangers, but if the Padres come calling, I'm taking the Padres job. Because what job does he want more? Does he want to manage the Rangers or does he want to manage the Padres? I think he'd want to manage the Padres more. But obviously, you just commit to be the manager of the Rangers, and how bad of a look that would be if you were to, be like, you know what? Nope, I'm going to go manage the Padres now. Like, you probably don't want to do that to any team in baseball, to, burn a bridge like that. So Skip's not happening. But yeah, the timing kind of sucks. Because we knew about this today, but the Padres knew on Saturday. And if their season ended on that Thursday? What is that? 9 days, something like that it took for Shildt to come to that realization. AJ could do a lot in 9 days to get him in a good spot for the next manager of a team, to find the next manager of this team. Bud Black is someone is brought up here. I think it wouldn't hurt. That's another guy. I probably should have mentioned him. Yeah, I went to San Diego State. Obviously, former Padres manager. Like, it wouldn't hurt to talk to him, but it also doesn't make sense to talk to him. I know that's kind of weird what I just said there, but it doesn't really make sense because AJ fired Bud Black. So he's going to fire him and then hire him. I know they were different Padres teams. I get it. But that doesn't make sense. I think Bud totally would entertain it. Like, oh, so you're admitting that you made a mistake. Okay. And he'd be managing a postseason team. But no, Preller's not going to do that. Rex asks, who actually hired Shildt originally as an advisor? Probably AJ, I would think. Kyle says, does Ruben Niebla even want the job? Who knows? I mean, he wants to manage in the future. I think he'd rather manage the Padres than any other team right now. I mean, he's most familiar with them. Talk about credibility and buy-in. Like, yeah, they buy into Ruben Niebla being the manager, I would think. I haven't heard anyone say anything negative about Ruben Niebla. I'm seeing Tatis Sr. in here. Maybe you guys are joking like I was today. But no, that's not happening. I'm seeing some people saying his heart was never in it from the beginning of the postseason, making the postseason probably made things worse for him. I feel like I disagree with that. I think his heart was in it too much. Like, if it's taking that, your heart is in it too much, and that's why you're stepping away, because you're a human being and you have a life. And if this is taking up too much of it and you can't deal with it, that's caring too much. So I think his heart was in it too much. Not it wasn't in it. Is AI an option for management? ChatGPT, next manager of the Padres. What about Ryan Flaherty? I'm good. I'd rather have someone that has done it before. I know he's been in the dugout and like he could step in and do it, and he has done it before, but like I want to bring someone in here that's been in the postseason as a manager, and you know, let's just say I'd have more confidence in somebody else other than Ryan Flaherty. And maybe I'm thinking too much about the press conferences for Ryan Flaherty. I'm just not impressed. But I'm not in the clubhouse. He would have some credibility in the clubhouse. And Manny loves him, is what it seems like. Yeah, if Bochy was hired, we can continue the unfinished business stuff. Yes. Just going through the chat here. Oh, shocker, there's Dodger fans in here. You guys literally had a playoff game to be watching, and then you could go watch Dodger shows about you guys winning a playoff game, but you're instead on a Padres channel. Interesting. Thanks, but interesting. Just going through here. A lot of comments, so it just takes some time scrolling through these. Kenny says, do you think he made up his mind before the season ended, or do you think something happened? No, it didn't seem like it was before the season. What I'm reading is it happened throughout this last month, where he was like, yeah, I can't do this again next year. Unfinished business, LFGSD. Some people aren't the biggest fan of that mantra there. I don't care. It's fine. Before ending this, there's the topic about no manager lasting more than 2 years under age. I know Andy Green was longer, but more referring to Bob Melvin, Mike Shildt, right? When they're contending. Jace Tingler. And what I would say to that, like I mentioned earlier, that might not be the worst thing. Like, I know it looks like a bad look, but it all goes back to who AJ Preller is. Like, would you rather have a GM that has a great relationship with the manager and they have this great dynamic and it's there for 5 years, but the GM isn't all in on winning and doesn't make the huge moves like AJ Preller does? And maybe that team's not in the best position to win the World Series, but the relationship between the GM and the manager is great. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have the GM going all in and only thinking about winning? And sometimes it's too much for some managers after some time, and then you have to go find someone else. But like, I would rather have the person with the roster construction, because at the end of the day, the players have to be better. That just bottom line, period. Players have to be better. The guy that does the roster construction, year in and year out here, he's putting this team in a position to go win a World Series. Like, you can't forecast that Jason Adams is going to get hurt and some stuff that happened there with injuries. But he's doing the best that he can to put this team in a position to win. And so if the relationship suffers between him and the manager, maybe this is crazy to say. I'd rather have that then have the relationship be great, but the roster construction is not as good. The personality of the GM, like he doesn't make the big bold moves because I want the team on the field on paper to be put in the best position possible, and AJ does that. So like, if I'm gonna pick between Shildt and AJ, I'm picking AJ. Maybe some people would feel differently about that, but that's how I feel about it. So, and that's not me hating on Mike Shildt. Like I'm just saying, if I had to pick between one or the other, then I'm picking AJ. And that's what the Padres have done. I should rephrase that. The Padres have picked AJ Preller. I don't know if they actually picked AJ Preller or Mike Shildt, but we know that they have picked AJ Preller. He's having a Zoom tomorrow. They wouldn't let him speak if he was getting fired. So he's going to be there. An extension will get done, I assume, at some point here in October, maybe in November. And that's the way they're going. AJ Preller's already released a statement. The manager search immediately it's already happened. It started days ago. It's happening. So, yeah, that's what I've got. Hopefully everybody has a great rest of your night. If you're listening or watching this on Tuesday, thank you so much for the support. Much appreciated. But yeah, just have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to y'all later. Preller will speak to the media tomorrow, so I plan on having a reaction to that, so stay tuned for that.